Wake up, buy here, pay here people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here, Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Happy Monday.
Hello again from Western Oklahoma.
Yeah, we're still here.
You guys, we survived another apocalyptic windstorm yesterday.
We went for a drive because we try to do that sometime, over the weekend. And so we went for this drive just at the beginning of when they were saying there's going to be a windstorm. Got about 5 miles out, stopped in and parked in there's a casino down the way in the parking lot. And then this, we're in the middle of the Dust Bowl. And so this just wall of red nastiness just engulf us. And we're looking around and it's like, I don't know if you've ever watched those apocalyptic movies where everything in the air looks kind of orange and red. So the only thing that was missing was fire.
Yeah.
We didn't see any fire.
And maybe thousands of birds.
That's true. Yeah. So, and then all of a sudden it was interesting that, we're just like, this is really kind of eerie. It's like we're in the middle of this just nasty movie. And then all of a sudden it got dark enough that all of the parking lot lights went on. And it was just kind of, for both of us, it was like, oh, same storm, different perspective, not scary anymore. It was, it was kind of, we're always trying to look at things from a different perspective. And, a lot of things that we see that are scary, if you look at it from a different perspective, it might have a completely different look to it.
Yeah.
So it was
when she says we're always trying to look at things from a different perspective, what she really means is she's trying to get me to see things from her perspective.
No,
is really what I'm hearing, right?
Dude, no. Well, but I have a different perspective, so then maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll go there.
Good. We have two wonderful guests with us today. Yeah, I will share with them. I put a poll out there last week. It kind of ties into the conversation today, so we'll share that. If we got it loaded, we can get it on the screen. If not, we'll just give the numbers. But otherwise, we put a poll on Facebook that kind of goes to the subject that we want to talk about today. And so today, this topic is absenteeism, which is something that I've been curious about most of my business life. So I'll explain that when we get Mark and Brent in here, but it's something that I've been interested in long before I was in automotive and buy here, pay here. So I'm trying to, I'm researching, I'm learning more stuff all the time. I have a circle of, influencers that we follow and learn new stuff. And so we're trying to just share that with, our audience today to start to think about, and the poll kind of affirms some of the things that, we've been kind of looking at. So.
Yeah. It's, I think it's some good information. And it's funny because just before Jim put the poll out there, I was like, all right, I'm going to give you my take about what will be number one. And then number two was could be between 2 or 3 different things. And we were right because he kind of had the same feeling that this was going to be the number one thing in this poll. So,
and I'm a former dealer myself. Brent's been there. And so let's bring in our folks, shall we?
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to real quick say good morning to Shelly.
Hi, Shelly.
And to George as well. And then let's bring in our
distinguished.
Yes, our esteemed guest.
Oh, both. Look at that. You guys got both. We'll let you decide which is which.
He's actually both. I'm neither.
Well, I have to say before we get on the topic, because I'm like the newbie here, and I enjoy listening to a good buy here, pay here conversation. Don't typically have a ton to add to the, of expertise, but just maybe good questions. But I really have enjoyed both of you guys an awful lot when we've had the opportunity to talk to you or listen to the things that, and I just, this is just me. I really enjoy both.
Well, that's why we like Michelle more.
Even though she's an Apple user. Yeah. Even though she's an Apple user.
Yeah. She was recently mentioned as a celebrity on one of the other podcasts. So yeah, I get it. It's part of how it happens.
Yeah.
So now listen, we're thrilled to have you guys here, and we really have some interesting stuff to talk about. And it's one of the topics that I find myself contemplating often. Brent, you and I had a conversation not long ago about businesses scaling. And so when we talk about this absenteeism, what's that look like? I always tell people, look, you'll probably never be fully autopilot on buy here, pay here. I'm sure you guys see that too. I've also shared over the years, like as a former buy here, pay here dealer myself, I said, if my appetite for growth would be that I would never want to own an operation where the locations were less than an hour drive from my home. And I bet you guys can both answer why I might say that. Like for me, that was the appetite. Beyond that, to me, it becomes a different animal. And I'm not sure that's for me, but you can do absenteeism with multiple locations. So maybe just let me ask first, for those who don't know, Brent Carmichael with NCM is a 20 group moderator, now 15 plus years.
He was NCM. Jim's moderator way back when he was a dealer. Mm-hmm.
That's where I learned all the good stuff. And then Mark Burkholder is joining from Peachtree Planning, and a gentleman out of Alabama that we're fortunate enough to get to know a couple of years ago. And so he's added a lot of great things to the conversation. But Brent, for you first, I might just have you talk about, for our listeners, what do you see when it comes to absenteeism and dealers' ability to grow to multiple locations and scale? Like, what are you seeing some success stories? You don't have to name names, but.
Well, and Jim, I was kind of like you. Our locations were no more than 250 miles apart. Mm-hmm. From the centralized, because that was something we could get to and get back in the same day. So it's a 3-hour drive, spend a few hours, 3-hour drive back, so we didn't have to stay overnight. But I don't know that, to me, there's kind of a tipping point in, a lack of volume that, yes, we can be a little more absent from our business than when it gets to scale, because once it gets to scale, the little mistakes add up in a real big hurry. Mm-hmm. And, the more locations you have, the more people that are there. And again, Mark can attest to this as well. The hardest lesson I learned as we were growing was the less I did day to day, the more valuable the business became. Okay. And that if my people were empowered and could make all the decisions and didn't need me, then we became more valuable as a business. And that's a real hard lesson to learn, either as an owner operator or just a manager, is, well, wait a minute, how am I more valuable if I'm not in the business? And Mark will tell you from probably being involved in quite a few M&As and sales that, if you're the owner operator and everything has to revolve around you, that does hurt the value of your business. So, where that, to me, it's more of a personal choice. How much of a control freak are you? I guess when it comes to the absenteeism part of it. I see guys to this day, dealers to this day, that have a phenomenal operation. They could probably take a month off and it wouldn't matter. And then I see some, and Mark can attest to this as well, that if they ain't there from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, the business will probably collapse. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a real fine line to what works and what does not. To me, it's more of a personal choice, to be honest with you, than anything else.
Yeah. And I think we'll bring you in here, Mark. I just think what you just shared there is kind of goes to the heart of what we expect to do with this event at the end of March. It's like you said, there's a fine line, and I know that's absolutely true. And we want to try to define that line, like to help dealers make that step, if that's their goal. Some of them may not have that desire at all. We're just trying to position people to, be and have the ability to grow to another level if that's what they choose to do.
Or just strengthen their business.
Yeah,
overall.
Absolutely. Improve the operation as it is. So Mark, your thoughts on that? Have you seen success stories out there?
I think it's a lot easier for a retail person to separate from their business and to remove a step away. I think the buy here, pay here is very intimate. And that owner almost doesn't live and die. That's an overstatement, but he really wants to process almost those transactions. I was talking to my best friend in the world who owns a buy here, pay here last night. He actually came over. And we talked about this. He didn't know I was coming on here for this reason, but he said, I would love the ability to step away. Yeah. I work at this 6 days a week, probably 12 to 15 hours a day, to be honest with you. He goes and buys and drives and goes to all the auctions, and he feels the need or necessity. I'll take away the need, but almost the necessity to be at his dealership, to put his eye on everything, because he doesn't have a valued or a trusted person to fill his gap.
Yep.
And last night, what Michelle said in the opening, seeing it from a different perspective. I was giving him a different perspective last night as not an owner, but someone who talks to, hundreds of dealers through the course of a week, is trying to give him different perspectives and different opportunities to maybe do exactly what Brent said, is let's step away and maybe cut some strings of control and issue those bits of control to someone else. Now, whether or not you can mentally handle it if you're a control freak, who knows?
Well, if you have a really good when, those strings you want to cut, if you have a very well documented process or a system, or these are your rails and this is the stuff, and if it's within these rails, go the heck for it. And you don't have to include me, but I think that for those that are control freaks, as long as they're not in there micromanaging, but it's like, this is the rail and this is what I'll be auditing, just to make sure that you're staying in the thing, doing the stuff in the right way. And then you have a little bit more, and I think it's hard. Squirrel.
It's fun. It's kind of fun distraction.
I'm sorry. All the laughter made me like lose my squirrel. That it is, people say we don't have anybody, but how many dealers are developing their team? Because there's a lot of really good, talented people that may not be developed to be a manager, but they're there. And it just requires you to develop them. And then they can become that person that can take over for those duties.
Yeah, most of us have seen some of that out there. And I think one of the things that is interesting about this poll, I don't think you got it loaded up, right? We can't show it on the screen. So
I don't think so.
And that came to your email.
Yeah.
So let me just kind of give you gentlemen a snapshot of what this poll looks like. This is just one of the 2 Facebook groups. And I want to say there were around 70 respondents to the one I put up on Saturday. And the question reads like this: please pick only 2. If you could only keep 2 of these functions in your buy here, pay here business, which would you most like to keep based on enjoyment, not which is most vital to your business? Okay. And so,
okay. Well, Jim, read them, and then I would love to hear your guys' like, what will be the number one?
Sure.
I just,
Well, go ahead, Brent. What do you think's number 1?
What I would want to keep?
Yeah. Which roles would you want to keep? Which functions?
Well, I mean, if you're going to break it down, they're going to want something on the sales side or probably the buying of cars. Because most of the dealers I know really enjoy the buying of cars. Still, the owner ops that still do that. I know what the least 2 would be right off the top. I mean, those are easy. They would be the collection side of the business and the shop. Those would be the 2 they would give up right away in a hurry. But I would have to say something. I mean, because they enjoy the sales side better. That's kind of the fun side, right? That's get to make the customer happy when we're selling them a car. We like buying cars. We like going to the auction. Those would be, to me, would be the top 2.
Mark, are you in?
1,000. That's what he said last night. He said, I would love to step back. He said, but the joy or the thrill of purchasing and getting in, like he goes to Atlanta, goes to some different auctions that are a little ways from here, gets in his car, smokes a cigar, gets there. It's just a relaxing time for him. And that's what he said. He goes, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Said, I don't want to retire. I just want to be able to step back a little bit and enjoy my time as being an older person, not older. I mean, he's in his mid 50s.
Yeah. And there's a bit of a spread. There's a bit of a spread in here. And before Jim kind of just dives into this, I found this really interesting. And I think, Brent, from what you just said, you're going to find some of this like, oh, really? Go ahead.
Yeah. So the results came back, and this is typical for me. I forgot to even put service on the list. But I did allow them to write in something if it was on their top 2. They're only picking.
No one wrote it in.
Yeah, nobody wrote it in as a top 2. But by far the most was buying and inventory management. That was 38% of the people included that, and then it drops off to 21% was financial tracking and analysis. So that surprised me. Like if we're really talking about going through the financials and kind of that part of it. So the other responses that I offered were attention to scale, growth, and expansion. That came in at 15%. You want to know what was near the bottom? Underwriting, sales management, collections. So
sales management,
isn't that our business?
Yeah.
Sales management, underwriting,
everything that pays the bills we don't want to do. I got it. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So, but I threw that out there thinking, and here's where it comes from. In fact, Michelle, before we go any further, if you wouldn't mind loading up, I put that the one Alex Hormozy video in the.
It's just taking us up. It's taking a second.
Oh, can't you do it from here? I put it in the.
Yeah, I did. Material. I can. So I'm sorry. We're technically.
Yeah, you're fine. So I'll go ahead and start to explain.
Talking.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So basically, in a couple things in my business life. Before I ever was introduced to automotive, I was always interested in this. And one of the more fascinating things about business to me has always been, I've said it from a very young age and working with people, the beautiful thing about business is that you have the opportunity to create something that will create income even without you standing in the building or in whatever that, there's other ways besides, brick and mortar to create a business. Right? But if you think about a brain surgeon, and we had this conversation with Taylor Bird a while back, it's like, when you choose to be in this business, you have the opportunity to do something a brain surgeon can't do. A brain surgeon gets paid really well, but typically only when they're performing brain surgery. In our case, we have an opportunity to create a business that produces income for us even when we're not there. And that's always been the intriguing part about business in general for me. So now the question is, when you hear this Hormozi video, this is somebody I've only become introduced to them as a coach and mentor and business advisor, but it's the other one, the top one there. So play that one. Let me let you listen to this. And then
painter wants to make money painting. That is different than somebody wanting to start a painting business. And so one is a business career, the other is a technician career. And a lot of people, and that's actually a really big one, a lot of people who are technicians love the craft and hate the business. And they need to decide whether they want to be business people or they want to be technicians. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. They just need to decide for themselves and then stop their expectations about having both. Because the businessman wishes he could paint all day. The painter wishes he could make the money of the businessman.
That's it. Yes. So, it just kind of rung true for me. It's like, and listen, our car dealer people are not necessarily, we're not talking about painter technicians, but they do something that I was told 40 plus years ago. Just be careful about trying to make a passion into a business. Like sometimes it's not enough. Like and I realize as I say this, we got buy here, pay here dealers are mostly our listeners. And if they hear this and think, no, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to think, how can I do the parts that I enjoy and bring other people into my team that will let me scale the business? So as somebody said to me, that's bandwidth. Well, I don't have enough people. Well, bandwidth is just a function of capital, right? So if you obviously it's hard to find the people, right? We know that's tough. But if you had the capital, then you would be able to capitalize your business in a way that you would hire the necessary people to do the stuff. Not saying it happens overnight. It takes time to do these things, but that's part of what this March event is about for me. And that's part of what, we wanted to talk about this morning is I know it's possible. We didn't ask you, Brent, absenteeism can be done. You've seen it done successfully. Mark, you do the same thing. It can be done. Yet we meet a lot of dealers that say, I'll never get there.
Or that say, I really wish I could,
like
your friend, but
do
they know how to?
The part that troubles me too about that, and I'll give you a chance, Mark, to jump in there. So I just would say too, that the other part of this is the impact on families. Like you have to have a personal life. And so when, cause that's what happened with my own business years ago. When I was in retail sporting goods business, I had to close the business. It was just killing me. I was working all the time. My kids were young and enough, and so Mark, what are your thoughts on that? Like about
going to that? I think I won't say his, aspect of this, but I'll say the majority of people that I talk to, it's more fear driven. They're fearful of walking away. And that maybe been ingrained in that person or that owner since they were 13, 14, 15 years old, working at the dealership with their dad because their dad did everything. So therefore they're now emulating everything that their dad did in a totally different area or era of their life. Mm-hmm. Most like what I counsel people to do, and it's just more of a counseling more than teaching. When you have a banker's meeting, take either your succession planning person, your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, take them with you. Start to develop the lingo so the banker knows them. If you have to meet or hire or fire or someone like that outside, the CPA, anything, the attorney, take that person with you and start to learn for them to adapt into your world. Therefore, we always picture the rosy part, right? Let's go on vacation. Let's go to the lake house. But what if something catastrophic happens? You have a stroke, a heart attack, other things where you're mentally incapable of running the dealership, but yet your family is still needing that income to come in.
Right.
You better have a backup plan for something to happen.
We see that happen, and we have different clients that have had those experiences, and it's like, I don't ever want to get faced with something like that ever again, because it was just havoc or whatever.
Yeah. And sometimes word on the street gets out, and those people will, depends on your demographic, but they could stop paying the note. Oh, well, they're not going to come get me. Well, then all of a sudden people stop paying the note because the patriarch or the driver is not in that seat anymore. Now, hey, come get me if you want the car. And it turns into a little bit of a fiasco if you don't have someone who can step in with some sort of authority and to be able to take over to assume the note collections.
So thoughts to add on that, Brent?
Really nothing to add on that. I mean, Mark kind of covered everything completely, but I do think absenteeism is easier at scale than it is when you're smaller. I just do, because there's even a financial aspect to it, right? I mean, if I'm the owner and I'm doing, let's say 25, 30 cars a month, so kind of a mid-level or a smaller dealer, for me to step out, I've got to have somebody in that GM or sales manager position. And does my business really justify that kind of an expense? To your point, Jim, I mean, I can't pay somebody X number of dollars to kind of fill in that role and me still take, maybe necessarily what I want out of the business from a salary or whatever, as far as compensation is concerned. But I do think it does get easier. My experience has been, as dealers get bigger, they do come out of the business more, because again, they've kind of got that org chart. Well, now I've got a GSM and I've got this, and I can step out. And I'm not a cliche guy, but one of the things you mentioned, work with a lot of the larger dealers on working on the business, not in the business, right? I mean, we've heard that cliche a lot, and that's kind of the point we wanted to get to. When it gets to where you're working on it and not having to, be a decision maker and sign some checks and look over all these things, then yes, it gives you a little bit more. And the personal aspect that Mark mentioned, I think, is probably really not looked at enough. And I can just say from my personal experience back in the day, it was one of those that my wife at one point had to, set me down and say, look, we got to do something about this. It's, you come home, 7 o'clock at night, we don't get to see the kids, but for 5 minutes, and then you're in your office working. And my whole thing was, well, yeah, but I've got 6 locations and we've got to, it's got to have, and again, the hardest lesson I ever learned as a manager was actually the less that I do, the more valuable I become. And that's just not how we're wired. That's just not how any of us are brought up. It's, if you know everything and can do everything, that adds value. And then, like I said, it was about the time that we sold the business that you realize that, hey, look, if I go away tomorrow, the business still needs to be able to operate at, or maybe not better than what it does with me there, but at least it doesn't sacrifice.
Beautiful.
And when you get to that point, that's when it makes it easier to, maybe play a little more golf. I need a lower handicap, so maybe I can get out and do a little bit more of that.
Right.
We've I think it was last August or September that we did, every Monday we did a reoccurring series on Management Monday is what we called it, because we love having names for things. But it was on how to carve out the time. If you're the small to the medium dealer, how do you carve out the time so that you can be spending, even if it's a half an hour, an hour, 2 hours a week, whatever it is, on your business instead of in your business. And so we went through to keep a journal, but it's even the busiest of dealers have time to work on their business, I think, because there's so much that they might be doing that it's like, that really is a thing that you could pass off to your salesperson out there that doesn't have anything to do right now, and or you don't need to be watching the numbers 18 times during the day. You can just once a day, and that's going to carve out an extra 10 or 15 minutes right there. But there is, even those that are really busy, there are times when you get smart about how you're using your time.
Yeah. And I would also say, Chuck Banana was on the show not long ago, and he shared that he sometimes finds himself having to say to dealers, that particular function is below your pay grade. That's something you hand off. So that's kind of the point of what Michelle's making. Why don't we roll that other video, and then I have something else to share.
This is from Rob Luna.
Right.
Can your business function without you? No. Yeah. It's the first thing I ask entrepreneurs, and Most of them will tell me no. I said, okay. And then some of them will tell me, yeah, probably. I said, okay. Second question, can your business grow without you? And then most of them will then say no. And so the idea is, how do you create a business that is able to function first and then grow without you being in there? Because if you haven't done that, you really just bought yourself a job. And so the whole idea about creating a business that has enterprise value is it becomes your largest asset when you do it correctly.
And I think it can scale is the part. And the other thing I would say on this is, in my years of traveling, much like what you've done, running across the country, and you too, Mark, for that matter, it's like when you visit enough dealerships or other businesses, even for that matter, one of the things I came to realize is there's a ton of people out there that are way better at day-to-day management than I'm going to be. And so why wouldn't I put those people at the helm of my business? Of course, I have to have safeguards and I have to have security controls and I have to make sure that it's my business and it's my responsibility to keep, tabs on the performance of the business. But wow, the day-to-day management, I just meet so many people that are far better at that than I would be. And so why wouldn't I go find and recruit somebody who can run my business well and let me, maybe I develop other interests. Maybe I go invest in real estate. We know a lot of dealers do that, but it gives you time to go pursue other things and let somebody else run the business that is, needs to grow. Mark, you had something to add there?
Well, even if they can't even go do that on a larger scale, on a smaller scale, you can set up time on your schedule. I'm blocked off for an hour a week. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. I'd block off 30 minutes to an hour a day.
Yeah.
One, just for mental freedom. My goodness, give yourself a break. Go to lunch. A lot of dealers, I found out, they don't leave their office or their dealership all day.
Yeah.
You can't. God didn't make you. He didn't make your mind operate that way. You need a mental break. You need to step away and take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to do that. If you do nothing else, set up a time where maybe you just go to lunch, get off campus, and go and take a deep breath, relax. We talked a lot about, you own this business. We're working now with a guy in another state. He graduated from, I want to say Georgia Tech in a aerospace aeronautics degree or something like that. I mean, off the charts intelligent.
Yeah.
He is not a car guy. He is a business guy who owns car lots.
Yep.
And it's uniquely different.
Ah.
It is just a total switch of the paradigm of what he thinks about and the way he runs his business. And he's huge. He just thinks about it in a different capacity. So that's what was my counsel. If you take nothing else away from this, if you take away, just have some mental freedom and create maybe some relaxation, do something you enjoy for a little bit. My wife told me, and I've done it this year. It may not be, maybe not how you grow the business, but I've gotten other people involved tremendously to what Brent said. I don't have to know everything. I have to be able to teach others to let them run. And, this year I've taken off every Friday from 11 o'clock. Every Friday this year, all my calendar is off at 11 o'clock and I go play golf every Friday.
Nice.
I know, Brent.
I wouldn't be able to afford to do that because I would spend more in golf balls than I would if I were working. So yeah.
And a little bit of that, even when I'm out there, my phone's still on, I'm still working. If something comes up, I do it, but it's something I look forward to all week.
There you go.
And it makes me a better person come Monday morning. It really does.
Yeah, Brent, I would share with you that Michelle and I, some of the work that we've done in the last year or so in particular, we've worked with some clients where we ask, especially when we're working with somebody new, we take them through this exercise where we want them to make time and even involve their spouse to do a 3-year vision for their business. And it sometimes takes weeks for them to get enough time to themselves to really get a vision that we can work with.
And you say, get out of your dealership and preferably get out of your home and just go somewhere where you can think. Golf course is a great place where you can think about the things that matter to you, where you don't have the interruptions, you don't have the nagging. Turn off your phone for just a few minutes because I promise you everyone will still live.
Yeah. It's like working. Like, what are we working toward? We're all working hard out there, but do we have clear vision? Do we have clarity around where we're going with our company, where we want to go? And so that's why we asked them to get there. And we want them to include their personal life. Like we think if you ignore the personal life, then that you pay a price for that at some point down the line, and you end up, hurting and making a change in your
And if you
direction.
don't have that vision, then when you're carving out that time during the day, during the week that you're going to work on your business, if you don't have the vision, you don't know what you should be working on. And so it's like, have a vision, be really clear about what you want to do. And then during those times that you spend working on your business, work on things to get you there. Work on the things that get you there.
And I think a lot of people don't know who they are.
Or what they want.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Cause I get that a lot with, well, I want to be 15 million in a receivable. Okay. Why?
Yeah.
What does 15 million get you that 12 doesn't? Or and they go, I don't know. I just got to be bigger. Okay. Why? Or, just tell me what it is that you want. And then we work with you, to your point, Jim, on the model that gets you there. I want more time off. Okay, great. Then we need to start hiring and developing people on a day-to-day so you can take time away from the business. Or, I want this retirement. Great. Let's do that. And time management, I think, we're humans. I think that's our biggest fallacy for all of us. We don't manage our time well. And we know that's our problem. And too many times I see to-do lists on Monday morning of 16 things. And they go, yep, this is all I got to do today. When they get through 8 of them don't get done, and they still got another 16 for Tuesday. Now Tuesday becomes 24. Yeah. Right. And so those are some of the things that I've been doing more of that, more management consulting and training probably over the last couple of years than I did for the first, 14 that I was with NCM. It's more, how do we manage our time so I can step away, play more golf every Friday at 11 o'clock. Dude, I'm telling you, I would kneecap you. If you were in the same room with me right now. I play less golf now than when I worked for a living, for God's sakes. I'm retired now. But seriously though, that's the thing. And I hate to say it, but we kind of make fun of the new millennials and what our employees are like, and they're more it's more important for them to have quality time with their family than it is earnings potential. I mean, we know those things.
Yeah.
But, I hate to say it, but it's kind of true, right? I mean, we need that life balance, like Mark said, even if it's a half hour a day. And I always encourage, lunch hours for employees just to get away from the phone for the hour or whatever it is. And it should be the same thing as the ownership as well.
We've been talking a bit about, as we're talking about hiring people, is that within your culture of your business, create something that they can stand behind, a purpose of what your business is doing. And because people love a paycheck, but they love a purpose even more than a paycheck nowadays. And it's like, what is, well,
it's easy for the guys that have, 50, 60, 70 employees. I think the ones that struggle are that 6 employee, right? I mean, that guy, that owner operator, that single point where, that's all they've ever known is, to Mark's point earlier, my dad did it this way. He was in the dealership 6 days a week. This is just what we do.
Yeah.
And then some of them, and I've heard this, and I know Mark has too. Well, this is my quality of life. This is what I enjoy doing. I mean, I just came from a 20 group meeting, and we had a member candidate. So, everybody has to introduce themselves. And it's, what are your hobbies? 75% of the room said, this is my hobby. Right? This is my business, is my hobby. This is what I enjoy doing. I don't see me doing anything else.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of where that fine line is can we do it or can we not? I think more of it's between the years to me than anything else.
And that's okay.
It is.
But ask your wife.
Yeah.
That's why when we have them do this 3-year vision, say, take your partner with you on this journey, because as we've done this with spouses, the spouses are saying, honey, I just wish you could spend more time at home.
Right.
Or whatever.
And tell people, we all work with, most of the time, mature dealerships, and their life is ever changing. Kids are now, the reason you became an owner or you came into the thing is so you didn't have to work for anybody else.
Yeah.
That's the glory of it. Sure. You can do whatever you want to do. That's me. I own the business. I have never missed a kid's baseball game, a girls' volleyball game. I don't miss those things because that's what's important. Now we have a granddaughter. I wouldn't miss anything in the world. She's
adorable too.
Oh, it's awesome. Coming over today at 3:00. I'm leaving work at 2:30 to go home and be there at 3:00. That's why I think the family becomes so important. And the owner needs to know who you are. You are created either you as a visionary, which typically is an owner. You have the long-term vision of what you want to succeed. Then there's managers who work really hard in the business, and then there's employees.
Yeah.
So who are you? Going back to the first clip you showed, are you an owner who has a manager's mentality?
Right. Yeah.
Probably.
That's
most people.
Yep.
And so you've got to at least take some of your time and become a visionary, while the rest of your time may be a manager, but you need to become a little bit of a visionary.
That's good. I think that's, when I think about this event in March and when we talk about enterprise value, I struggled so much to figure out what are the phrases? How do we describe this event? And for me, if we're successful in helping dealers create that enterprise value, it does a couple things for them. One, we hope it makes their business more profitable and successful. Second, I would say it gives them the opportunity to be away from their business more. When they create these pieces and create this enterprise value, it gives them a chance to be away more. And then the third one for me would be, we create a business that has a chance to produce income into retirement. So think about us being retired fully and having that business still produce income. We're not selling off the assets. The business is still running, it's performing. And so we've got the opportunity to continue. So I think, Mark, when I think about, because I know you work a lot in exit planning and succession work, I think the best case scenario for us would be to help create a business that can survive us, that you can transfer to someone else and have them enjoy value and income, and you can realize your income from it. So that, to me, if I think about what does enterprise value look like to me, it's helping dealers position themselves so that they are business owners. They do create something that functions without them standing in the building every day. And not everybody will choose that, but for the ones who would like to get there, we'd like to, we're bringing all the experts, trying to help them figure out what are the ways to do that.
The event is not just about those that are bigger and want to retire. It's there's going to be some really good information about systems and processes, about all of those pieces that help your business, even if you choose to be there, to run more effectively, to be more, have better flow and all of the things. So it'll be awesome. So enough of the pitching for the March 30th. You guys are both going to be there.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that. Glad you're going to make time for that. We know we can do a lot of good.
We're going to thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being willing to do this, and I'm just really, again, love you guys. And I love that. Yeah, I love him too, but
I'm on the list.
I hope that everyone listening kind of got a better feel for, are you working in your business, on your business? Are you a manager? Are you a business owner? What do you want? And getting clear, everybody that's listening out there in listener land, the first way to figure out what it is you are is to know what you want. And, what do you want? And if you want to be in there buying every day and then closing the deal and underwriting the stuff, then that's, let's just make it easier for you to do that. But, we just see a lot of people want something.
Any final thoughts from you, Brent?
No, Michelle, I summed it up probably perfectly right there. Too many of them truly don't know, I think, what it is that they want, or they don't think it's achievable, one of the two, because that's what they've always done. And like I said, a lot of the work I've done over the last couple of years, and maybe it was COVID and a lot of people looking at exit strategies and maybe selling the business, maybe that was more the focus for a lot of the owner ops going down that path. But there's been a lot of it. And again, it just starts with that simply, what is it that you want? Yeah, I want to get out. I want to play golf every Friday at 11 o'clock. Great.
It's going to be hard for you to.
I'm not going to let that go, Mark. You just ruined my day. But anyway, I love it. If that's what you want, then yes, let's sit down and work out the plan to get you there for you. And the other thing, to Mark's point, is if you're going to do that, and I know he said he would do some stuff while he was out there, but to me, I'd want to set them up that, hey, come 11 o'clock, you don't answer that. If they're asking you, what should we pay for this car? What should we put in this trade? Should we do this deal or not? Your responsibility is to train those people that they know what it is already. At some point, empower them to make the decision. And my thing as a manager was always, well, if Mark called me and said, Brent, what do you think about this deal? My first question was, Mark, what do you think about this deal?
Good. Yeah.
Right. Instead of answering the question, just say, what do you think? And most of the time they knew what they were doing. So
Yeah.
But most of the dealers I know are control freaks, and it's more right here for them to let go, that they just assume that no matter what, if somebody makes a decision, the world will come to an entire end if they're not there to answer the question.
That's
in
the same
most cases,
thing.
they're not.
That's the same thing I used to ask my managers. What do you think? And they would say it, and I would say, that's a terrible idea. Let's do it.
Or Jim would go, "You're fired. How dare you say something that stupid? I don't know why we even hired you in the first place."
Last time
Mark, did you want to say anything
Go
before we let y'all go?
And I brought on some guys. I expanded my team who had expertise, who could help me out. And I am a control freak. I am. I used to manage everything. I've grown my business. It's my name. It's my reputation. But I've allowed them to take parts of ownership. I've allowed them to do stuff, and I've allowed that to happen. It has not been easy. So I'm speaking firsthand on what to do. I will do this in closing. If you want to work on your business, if you're a dealer and listening to this, unequivocally, Jim and Michelle, Brent are the leaders in this industry.
Wow,
they are hosting something that you need to set aside some time to invest in your business. And that's the event coming up with Jim and Michelle. There's no excuse not to do that. We have time to plan for it. You can take some time off. If you want to take the steps and learn how to invest in your business and learn some of these things of having some peace and some mental freedom, it starts with that event.
Yeah, thank you.
I would sign up with that event, and I would log into that and listen to the people who are trying to help you. In order to achieve a goal, you have to take the first step. Let that be your first step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know Brent shares that thing. We're interested in successful dealers, like, you know, and ultimately they're consumers. So, you know, that's what it's about for us. So we hope people come and learn something that will help them improve their business for sure. So thank you for that.
Well, you guys want to hold on, staying backstage, and then we'll chat with you just for a minute after we've closed the show. Thanks again, guys, so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. Just to let y'all know, if you are thinking about coming until March 9th, we do have a 125 off. And so it's the coupon code is Early Bird Morning Show, one word. Early Bird Morning Show, one word. So it's I'm sorry. I'm the one that created the codes. And apparently I'm looking at Brent backstage and he's like, that's long.
Yeah. The best you could do. Which, by the way, I don't think Brent's I saw a comment come into the feed. Did you share the one here that says, I don't know if Brent, I don't think Brent's got Facebook, but maybe his wife does. BC, best moderator in the business. So
yeah. So, and actually just really appreciate so much both of you being here. Anything before we close?
Not for me.
Okay.
No, we're good.
All right. Well, we will see you guys on Wednesday, White Hat Wednesday. And I hope you guys have a great start of your week. Thanks so much for joining. And we'll see you in a couple of days.